Welcome to another episode of Fully Charged, this time coming from almost sunny Oslo. It's a little bit nippy, I'll admit that. Now, the reason that I'm in Oslo is because Nissan are launching the 2013 Nissan Leaf in this city. Why in Norway? There's a couple of reasons. One, this has the most electric cars of any city in Europe, and two, 98% of their electricity is from renewable sources. So when you drive an electric car in Norway, all the arguments that I hear, and they feel like this. It's very dirty, the coal that burns to make electricity. It's such a boring argument and it's wrong. But anyway, here you can't have that argument because the electricity that powers these cars is very, very clean. So this is the 2013 Nissan Leaf. This car is built in its entirety in the UK in Sunderland, as you'll see in a moment. It has 100 major and minor improvements from the original Nissan Leaf. Regular viewers will know I've been driving one of those for the last 18 months. I've done 26,000 miles in the car and I'm very pleased with it. But this one is the next step and it has all these amazing improvements. One of the most key ones, I think, from experience is the heater. The heater in this one is 3 times more fuel efficient, more energy efficient than the heater in the original car. So when you've got the heater on, you can still go further. The one that I really love is the fact that you can open the charging lid, that's this little bit here, you can open it with your key fob as opposed to pulling a lever in the car, which is just heaven. After you've been driving one of these cars for a long time, all you want to be able to do is walk it and go ding, ding, and it opens. But better than that, inside there's a little light. When you plug your car in late at night and you can't see anything, and you open the thing and you're going like this, trying to shove the charging lead in, with this there's a little light and you just go, little tiny improvements like that. Those are the sort of things that please a simple man like me, but there's much, much better ones, and we'll have a look at them now.
I spent a great day at the Nissan plant in Sunderland, watching the manufacturing of the new 2013 Nissan Leaf. Unlike many other car plants I've visited, where the electric models are made in a special section because they're produced in such limited numbers, at the Nissan plant, the Leaf is made on the same production line as petrol and diesel models. The day I was there, they were producing 1 Leaf for every 8 conventionally powered cars. This system first becomes apparent when you reach the point where the battery pack is put in the Leaf and the fuel tanks are put in the petrol cars. Each stage of construction is designed to take 1 minute. Nissan are very proud of their production numbers. They made over 500,000 cars at the plant last year. The entire electric drive system has been refined into 1 unit that gets put in the car in exactly the same way they mount conventional fossil-burning engines. The teams all work very hard and very fast. It's all been very carefully planned. So when there's a team working on the underside of the car, there's another team working overhead. No doubt about it, at present, Nissan are way ahead of the competition.
So there's 1 or 2 differences with the new Nissan Leaf. Now I was just about to reverse without looking in my camera. The cameras on this car go all around the car, not just at the back, which is pretty cool. So this is the new 2013 Nissan Leaf. This is the first time I've actually driven the new version. So for regular viewers, you will know that I am a fairly long-term Leaf driver. It has, as they proudly announced, 100 new features. So there's 100 tiny improvements, big upgrades, different changes. There's quite a lot of things that are different about this car. So I'm very used to the original one. The chief difference I can really sense already is the heater. So in the original car, the heater was a heated element like you'd have in an ordinary petrol car that heated the air, which used quite a lot of energy. This one is a heat exchange unit. The other thing it's got is heated seats. It's got heated seats, which work, let me tell you. Got my foot off the throttle, and the engine is really, it's got engine braking, so much better regenerative braking than the original model. You can really sense it. It's got much more slowing potential. So in the original Nissan Leaf, on a hill this steep, I would be touching the brake just to maintain the speed. I'm not having to do that here. Well, I did touch it a bit because I was nervous, but it's actually fine. You don't need to do it. So that makes a big difference. So everything they've done, most of the refinements they've done, are all about increasing the range of the vehicle. So this vehicle is actually 32 kilograms lighter than the original, and that's very much to do with sort of refining all the various parts of the car. For instance, the part of the battery management system, which used to be in the rear of the car and a big lump in the boot, is now in the front, and it's hugely compacted down. It's basically just been refined a bit, so it weighs less, it uses less materials, and it allows the car to go a little bit further. So it's very hard to judge the range because we're driving this car in -2. It's only -2. It's quite a balmy day, and all the things that you'd expect from this car, like the handling, the feel of the car on the road, is very stable, very secure. It's got plenty of oomph. It'll go fast. It goes the way you want it to go. It has every single safety feature you can possibly pack into it. The reason that the car is being launched in Oslo is because it's the biggest market for the Nissan Leaf in Europe, and that is because there are more electric cars in Norway than anywhere else, particularly in Oslo. If you have an electric car in Oslo, you don't have to pay purchase tax, which is very high for an ordinary car. You don't have to have any road license tax. You can use bus lanes. There's free parking in Oslo with charging already. And as I have stated before, but I think it's worth repeating, Norway's electricity is 98% from renewables. That is because they have an enormous amount of hydroelectric power. So all their electricity comes from hydroelectric and wind. And the reason they can't say it's 100% is because every now and then, at specific periods, particularly in the winter, they will import some, as they describe it, dirty electricity from the rest of Europe, which amounts to about 2% of their annual use. This car produces 0 grams of CO2 per kilometre. Realistic range, the realistic daytime normal driving range on the original Nissan Leaf is about, say, 80 to 85 miles in the summer and 70 to 75 in the winter. And Nissan are saying that this vehicle gets an extra 15 miles, which should mean, and the only way of telling us to drive it, should mean that there would be a realistic driving range of 100 miles in this car, actually 100 miles. And if you drove it very carefully, you'd probably get 110. Whereas the most I've ever done in the original Nissan Leaf is 106, and that was driving absurdly carefully. After you've driven 100 miles, you want to get out. You know, if you've ever driven really long drives, actually you're very rarely doing more than 100 miles at a go because you're just uncomfortable and you need a wee, because it takes quite a long time to drive 100 miles. So it's very, very plausible.
While I love my Leaf, the 2013 model is a massive improvement. It costs less, it goes further, it keeps you warmer or cooler, and it's just altogether better. Okay, it was a gamble. It took a while. Mr. Carlos Ghosn, the boss of Renault Nissan, bet the farm on making this car work. It's finally beginning to look like he did the right thing.
Well, as you can see, I need to update a little bit. I recorded the first part of this show in the winter of this year. I'm recording the second part later in the year. I now have had access to a 2013 brand new Nissan Leaf built in Sunderland, and looking back on that, I remembered a rather awkward moment I had when I was interviewing Carlos Ghosn, the CEO of Renault Nissan, when I drove him in a Nissan Leaf, and he asked me what I thought of it, and I said I think it's as good as a Golf, which, looking back on it, was a slightly dangerous thing to say to such a powerful individual at the head of one of the very large automotive manufacturers, to compare his vehicle with a competitive model. But what I actually meant was, it's always awkward when you say something like that and then realise later what an error it was. What I meant was that the Golf has been around for years, and it's been improved and redesigned and improved and updated and updated and improved, and you know, it's had many generations, whereas the Leaf, right out of the box, was an extraordinary car. Well, this is the second generation of that car, and it is just a brilliant car. It is a lot better. I mean, it just goes further on a charge. On the same amount of electricity, it goes further. All the things that I've talked about at the beginning of this programme have been borne out by my use of it over the last couple of weeks. I've driven quite a long way in it, I think about 800-900 miles in the time I've had it. I did a 178-mile journey the other night when I did a talk on my way home, and I had to recharge. In fact, I had to recharge a couple of times. One time I didn't really need to, but I needed a wee. Desperate for a wee. I mean, it's an age thing. don't criticise me for it. They've sold over 80,000, nearly 90,000 of these cars by now, mostly this year. The sales increase is about 1,100%. Phenomenal increase in sales. It's still nowhere near what they were hoping for. I think it's pretty amazing. One slight bit of guilt for me is that because I live out here in the sticks, it gets a bit dirty. There's a lot of farmers working around here spreading mud unnecessarily on the road. They should all be fined. I'm joking. And so I'm going to give the car a little bit of a rinse before they come and get it tomorrow, because I just feel a bit guilty. It is absolutely filthy.